kiddies. It's your old pal, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper. And you're listening to The Bottom Shelf.
Hey, guys.
Celeste, where have you been?
Wait, where's Branson?
Due to space-time conflict, I have removed him from this reality. In order to offset the imbalance, I have deleted my boy John from the Gundam universe as well. You're welcome. Also, West Side.
Glicks?
Glicks.
You're not like us.
Not like us.
Glicks. Ma'am. Take a Dayquil, dear.
Prepare yourself to discover a world of terrible movies. See, move abreast with... Flash, what happened on the bottom shelf?
Welcome, movie lovers and movie haters. A little bit of awkwardness there for you, everybody, because we forgot to decide who was going to actually come in after the music. So, hi, it's me,
I'm still
everybody's
confused by
favorite.
Glicks.
What was that?
I'm still confused by Glicks.
Glicks. Why is Glicks a man?
Anyway, hello, everybody. We are nearing the end of the wormhole. We have one box left. Just un mas. So we're hoping it's my turn because so far, boy, have I lost this game of roulette.
Oh man, I lost the game.
Oh man.
And you know who else lost the game? Everybody out there who's participating in that nonsense. I, however, have chosen not to play the game.
You're always part of the game, John.
I refuse.
Simply
With that being said, let me open this box here. And bro.
Hmm?
Okay, so we'll get into this when we get to the expectations, but check it out. Here.
What is this? Bad Times at Battle Royale?
No.
There's no battle.
That would be amazing.
Oh, Bad Times at the El Royale. Wait, why is it called the El Royale or El Royale?
That's kind of redundant.
It's because El Royale is the name of a hotel, and so the would be appropriate because it's in reference to the title of a specific place.
It still translates weird.
Only if you're translating it instead of seeing it as a proper noun.
Okay, what is this?
Well, the computer over here says this. Bad Times at the El Royale is a 2018 thriller written by the Lost Martian director Drew Goddard. It stars the original fighter for the user, the dude himself, Jeff Bridges, the soulful voice of Cynthia Erivo, Dakota Johnson before she got lost in the web of lies in Madam Web, Madman himself, John Hamm, and Lewis Pullman before he decided to be a bull rider on the Outer Range. It's the 20th Century Fox movie that takes place over a single night and leaves you wondering if you spent your night wisely as the dead characters.
Okay, that sounds exciting. Let me read the back of the box. It was 1969, and the lull at a once trendy hotel on the California-Nevada border ended with a rush of clientele, including an aging priest, Jeff Bridges, a vacuum salesman, John Hamm, a drifter, Dakota Johnson, and the soul singer, Cynthia Erivo. However, agendas and identities... Erivo. However, agendas and identities aren't all what they seem. And between the hunt for the hidden bank loot and the cultists arriving at the door, no one should expect a good night's rest. Stylish contemporary noir co-stars Chris Hemsworth, Lewis Pullman, and Kylie Spaney.
Yep.
All right.
All right. Yeah, that kind of covers it.
That intro sounds like the beginning of a joke. A priest, a salesman, and a drifter. And a
Walk into
singer.
a bar. Uh, all right, so let's crank some trivia out on this because I'm assuming we got again because we're in this black hole. There's no access to help or possibly
Apparently
out.
not.
All right. The El Royale was built from scratch on a soundstage with much of the furniture and decor being custom made,
Oh, wow.
including branded matchboxes and coasters for the bar.
For reals.
Nice.
The color scheme was meticulously set out so that the California side was mostly yellows and oranges, while the Nevada side was purples and blues. Red was reserved for the borderline jukebox and chandelier, while green is almost entirely absent until the end. The El Royale is based on the famous Cal Nevada resort and casino that was once owned by Frank Sinatra. And assuming the Richard Nixon press coverage shown on the TV in this movie is happening live or earlier that day, this film takes place specifically on January 27th of 1969.
Oh, wow.
This movie was shot on actual film without traditional light setting. The hotel was specifically designed to allow enough light to shoot by,
Huh.
and all the cast and the writer director Drew Goddard took a pay cut in order to get this film made
Oh, wow.
because they all believed in it that much.
I appreciate that.
So those are my trivia tidbits for this film. Let's break it down to expectations. I'll jump in on this one because this is apparently my movie. I finally get one to go my way. I'm so excited. I'm going to tell you, I have seen this movie a lot. Like the
Really?
year it came out, I saw it like 5 times.
Oh, wow.
It's a really good movie. Every time I see it, I have the same thought every time. It's like, wow, this is like Tarantino meets Hitchcock. And yeah, I'm very much expecting more of that. I'm expecting a blown out color palette with a heady plot, and yeah, I'm very excited. I'm going to like this.
Cool.
I'm not sure what to expect because all I know is the title.
You know that I like it.
I mean, yeah, but you like a range of things. Everything from The Exorcist to Dora the Explorer. So
Fair.
that doesn't give me a good gauge of what I'm walking into.
I will say this, although this is kind of trivia, although it's not so much trivia. But when I first started listening to Geek Devotions, there was one movie I was hampering on you guys to do a devotion about back when you guys were like, make a donation and maybe we'll do a devotion on a movie you like.
Which is still a thing.
Why do I sound like Ernie?
That's just how I do third person voices. But but yeah, this was that movie. I've been trying to make you guys watch this movie almost the entirety of our relationship. So this is an exciting moment for me.
5 years in the making.
About that's about right.
Cool.
So, anyways, Celeste, you said just the title. How about you, Dallas?
So I'm looking at the box and I'm having memories of seeing a commercial for this.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it first came out. Of course, 2018 was the start of like just some wild times for us. And so I never got a chance to watch it, but I feel like I wanted to watch it. Like I seem to have memories of going, oh, this will be a pretty nifty movie to watch.
Oh yeah, 2018 would not have been a good time for me to watch a movie like this.
No, not a good time for you at all.
Yeah.
But I thought it looked like a pretty cool movie to watch, and we just never have a time to. And so I'm excited to check it out. I have a fascination with films that pull off this 1960s feel to it. I'm just, because sometimes they do it and it's super stylized and interesting, and sometimes it's just not. So I'm intrigued to see what happens.
Yeah, I think that's by contrast to last week's or the last episode, that was about as I feel like we just rushed through that. Do we have anything else to?
I don't think so. I mean, we're just Celeste has never seen it. I've never seen it. You're hyped about it.
So hyped.
I'm intrigued by it because it looks, I'm looking at the box. I remember going, oh, this might be a fun movie. I just don't know anything about it.
Huh. All right, well, let's go watch a movie.
Let's go.
Woo! Can I get popcorn?
Dear listeners, this is your opportunity to escape. Our crew has just entered into the media projection chamber. What horrors and madness that they consume are unknown. Their mental state upon their return is unknown. You have been warned.
Squee! Squee!
I'll tell you what, the music was kind of jamming.
Yeah.
Bro. Okay,
I
so
listened to that soundtrack.
for real, that's like one of my favorite things about this movie, and I'm so excited about is that they use music to tell so much of the story in this
Mhm.
movie.
Yeah.
I noticed
do.
that. I genuinely did. I thought it was, and I appreciate, again, fact of the matter is the music they played is a lot of the music I grew up on, and I'm not old. And so, but like I grew up listening to the Four Tops, the Four Seasons,
That
all
whole
those
Motown
bands.
bit.
Yeah,
Oh,
that was my whole my whole vibe as a young man. So I was jamming to the music pretty hard during the entire time. When
Mhm.
Homegirl was singing, that's a not a spoiler, but there was a point where she's singing by herself a cappella. I was like, "Come on, girl, do it."
Singing the Isley Brothers, This Old Heart of Mine.
she sang that a lot. They definitely did a lot of foreshadowing with the music.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. It's I think when I was watching this movie, I think what I realized something about myself. I think I just like movies where you have a very small cast that are trapped in a secluded place,
Mhm.
and something happens, and it turns out everybody in the secluded place isn't who they say they are. Like those types of movies. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie Identity.
Mm-mm.
Man, I don't know. That sounds familiar.
It's a John Cusack movie.
I remember seeing the box. Yeah, I have seen this. Yeah.
That's another great example of the type of movie.
Yeah.
But like just the strangers trapped in a hotel sort of
Mhm.
scenario, and there's so many different plots you can play out that way.
Yeah.
It's Murder on the Orient Express is another one
Uh, yeah,
Mhm.
that's
I
like
could see
that.
Murder on the Orient Express.
Yeah. So, yeah, the storytelling was definitely interesting. I'm trying to figure I don't want to get into spoiled stuff, but the storytelling
It's
was
so
fascinating.
hard because like you just don't want to step on anything in this movie because
Right.
there is so much that unfolds over such a short, what feels like a short period of time.
Mhm. I'll say this: the set design was beautiful. I really liked how they did it. It feels like the luxurious, quote unquote, luxurious motels that littered the countryside at one point in time,
Hmm.
and the world felt real. At the
Yeah.
same time, it didn't feel like out of place. Like you knew this was like back then, but because sometimes when you watch films that take place like back in time, back in the 60s, back there's a feeling to you're like, man, this is foreign. You don't feel like you're connected to the world. It wasn't that way. It was super stylized, but it
Mm.
was also like, yeah, this could be a place you could see in real life at some point in time.
It felt very well thought out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say there was one singular thing that I was like, really, we couldn't have fixed that. Um, where they were highlighting the singer and they showed her hand trying to do something. I think she was starting a car, which I feel like is not a too big of a spoiler.
Mm-hmm.
And she had modern day press on nails. I'm like, y'all couldn't have gone somewhere other than Target to get them nails.
I will say, and I may just be trying to be the devil's advocate here, but I think back in the day, like Lee press on nails were still a thing back in the day
It's
in
not
1969.
they were, but they didn't look like that.
Okay,
Mm,
I'll take your word for it. Me being who I am, I wouldn't know that. So
right.
The press on nails have come a long way from the 90s to now.
ah,
And those looked like modern press on
gotcha,
Mm-hmm.
nails to me.
gotcha.
Now I'm not an expert, but just from press on nails I grew up with to now, there is a difference.
Yeah.
I will tell you this much: that did not take me out of the movie at all.
It did me a little bit.
So I did appreciate the details though. Like even though we had that, the details of it felt good. I mean, as little like that's a minor thing, but for the most part, you're like, Yeah, this is pretty cool. Like the rooms, I liked how every room was different
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
in it. Like
and you
everyone's room,
don't.
and it had a different color tone and everything. Like it was really neat how they played all that out.
Well, the use of color in the movie was interesting to me because not only did you have California and Nevada being different shades,
Mm-hmm.
they themed the rooms to fit the characters.
Mm.
Not only that, but I think that with each room looking similar but different,
Mm-hmm.
it enhances a feeling of unease because nothing you don't expect that at a hotel. You expect
Right. You
everything to be
expect
pretty
everything to
much
look the same.
stock.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see that between the rooms, it creates a certain sense of unease in the mind. And I almost am willing to bet that that was intentional by the
Oh,
set
probably.
designer.
Yeah,
But
quite
like,
likely.
but like for the singer, everything with her when it was her um was all very purple. Like
Hmm.
her room was purple. They almost always showed her with the Nevada side in the background. It was very intentional. Now why I don't know. Um but it was an interesting effect.
Mm-hmm.
Except for at one point her dress was yellow, and while the Nevada was in the background, her dress matched the tones
Hmm.
in California, the California side of the lobby.
The use of color in this movie was 100% intentional.
Mm-hmm.
It really feels like the here comes the geek in me. It feels like Ghost of Tsushima, how the
Mm.
use of color in that, how the palette changes based off of where you're at, and to increase certain feelings for for a scene or whatever.
Right.
And so it kind of has that old 1970s samurai film feel to it, where the colors are there for a reason, but
Right.
the reason may not necessarily be known to the viewer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely feels that way. Um, I don't. The whole thing, the fact that they took a pay cut to do this film tells me that they were really there was passion to it, and you could tell. Like the shots themselves were very intentional. The framing of it. Uh, there's a portion that I'll talk about when we get to our spoiler section that I was like, that's really intentional in how they pulled that off. But I appreciate that there was a lot of detail from the music selection to the camera angles to the coloring.
Mhm.
That tells me that there was talent and passion in this whole thing.
Um, and one thing I do want to tap on here, just because if somebody does make the decision not to listen to the spoiler section, um, I, I I want them to hear this before they click off the episode. Uh, but there is an overarching spiritual themes that go
Mm-hmm.
throughout this movie,
Mm-hmm.
that just shake me every time I see it, and even this time. So I want to put that out there. This movie is an R-rated movie,
Yeah.
and it needs to be an R-rated movie. But that this is going to be one of the ones that I would recommend to people to see, just because of certain messages that are in it. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, yeah.
Cool beans.
Anybody else got anything they want to say before we hit the spoiler section? Because I
We
don't
need
think
to hit the spoiler section because there's a lot to talk about.
Ladies and gentlemen, the spoiler section.
we are at that point of the show where it's like at Thanksgiving, where you can undo your belt a little bit, maybe pop open a few shirt buttons to let it out, because boy, does this movie beg to be talked about, and boy, can you not talk about this movie in front of people who haven't seen this movie.
Man.
And I will say, if you have not seen this movie, please do not listen to this part. Go see the movie and then come back, because
It's really a movie you need to see it
you
going in
have
or
to
get
go in
blind.
blank.
Yeah, you
Like,
really do.
literally, to give you a peek behind the curtain, when we brought this movie to the forefront, and I made a joke to Celeste. I said, my excitement is like diarrhea, it can't be contained. She goes, oh no, does that mean this one's going to stink too? And I said, no, but I'm going to make you feel a lot of things very fast, and that's all I'm going to say on it, because it's best that you guys go in blank.
Yes, absolutely.
And so with that being said, are you guys happy that you went in blank on this movie?
Oh
I
yeah.
did the preview that I saw. almost gives away certain details. I was like, I wish I didn't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
But the detail that they give in the preview, which is simply that there is a viewing windows into every room,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't too much. It kind of misled me a little bit actually
Oh
to
yeah.
who the actual villain was. But it was. I'm glad that I did not know too much going into it.
Yeah. I actually knew that about the windows into the rooms before the preview because I didn't go in completely blind. I mean, I did, but I didn't because I look up every movie just to make sure that there's nothing that's going to freak me out in it. Um,
Hmm.
and
Basically, no, you're checking for triggers. Is what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
looking
yeah,
at.
I'm
Yeah,
checking for
yeah,
my
I get it.
triggers to make sure that I'll be okay watching it. And so it said something about I don't remember what it said specifically, but when I clicked on it, I was like, what does it mean by this?
Oh,
And
voyeurism.
maybe I
Mm.
don't know. It probably didn't use that word, but it said that it was revealed that there were windows behind every room
Mm-hmm.
that people
Hmm.
could see.
What is this? Some kind of pervy hotel?
Jeff Bridges does so good at
That
that
that well,
super
that was the running joke throughout the movie. Every time someone found out that there was observation windows into all the rooms, that was the
Right.
first thing that someone's. What is this? Some kind of pervert hotel?
That's a fairly fair assumption
Yeah.
with
But they all say it, and they all say it.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
it's a fair
Oh man. All right, we need to get into the actual conversation about the film. I want to point that, like, this is one of the things you could not get into is that the structure of everyone's backstory was so well told
Oh, yeah.
and understanding. Like you open up, and I'm very curious. I didn't get an answer, but it opens up with a man getting shot. Like he gets a hotel room, and I love the shot itself.
Yeah.
It's like on the back end, you realize it's going through that window,
Mm-hmm.
and it's almost like a stage performance, and he's like rolling away the carpet, he's burying the bag, and he's putting it back and everything else, and I'm just like, man, what's happening? And he's waiting, and all of a sudden he opens the door and somebody shoots him. Who shot him?
It was the rest of the team.
It was
Jeff Bridges says that later on in the movie. He
Oh,
said the rest of my team killed my brother
yeah,
see,
it
I
was
at the
miss
meeting.
it must have been that the other kid,
the
the
one
rest of the team was
that
just one kid.
they were like, "Do you not know how to drive?" It
Right.
was that one.
Gotcha. I missed that, but you
Well, and then
start off
there
with that, huh?
oh, no, go ahead.
No, you start off with that, and then you have Jeff Bridges' character, and then you realize at the scene where he's like in the floor trying to find it, you're like, oh, he's connected somehow to this horror deal.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate the way, and then they tell his story. It was fascinating to see that play out, and almost heartbreaking also when you realize that he genuinely has a mental issue going on. He has,
It's suggesting that he has Alzheimer's, is what they're
yeah,
doing.
Yeah.
and
So
so I
I
appreciate
thought
that.
I thought it was interesting with that whole storyline that weaves into the bigger storyline that he and his brother both, when they were hammering the
Hmm.
the floor, that they were doing it to the beat of whatever song was
Yeah,
playing.
I didn't catch that,
The
and
yeah.
I've
brother
seen this
did
movie many times, so
the
that's
brother
pretty
did it
clever.
to the beat that was on the radio that he had cranked up
Mm-hmm.
before he died, and then Jeff Bridges did it when she was clapping.
Hmm.
Mm.
That was one of the things I noticed throughout the battle. I was like, oh, that's smart. He's doing it to the beat.
I will
Hmm.
I will say this to go with your catching just minor intentional things. There are so many intentional details that are throughout this movie that I promise if you go back and watch this movie, you're going to catch other things that you didn't notice. I think this is probably about the seventh time I've seen this movie,
Hmm.
and I literally am still catching things I haven't noticed. Like I figured out who's on the film.
Mm. Who's on
I
the film?
It's
JFK.
it's Kennedy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
And the reason why I got this is because the guy on the FBI guy who was posing as the vacuum cleaner salesman,
mhm.
he was there to collect their own wiretaps,
Mhm.
Ah,
and he found other people's, and so there was that. Plus, Nixon was taking office, and of course, we know Nixon was accused of the Watergate hotel wiretaps.
mhm.
So it's also, and then at the very end when they're looking at that, and the little girl who's looking at the film goes, "Oh, he's dead."
Why
You
does
know,
it matter? Yeah. It was the the thing where he said, "Yeah, I lied to them and told them that there wasn't a woman in there with him because he was nice to me,"
Mm,
was what made me go, "I bet it's JFK," because he was very well known for being very charismatic and very kind to most people.
But there's a lot of little breadcrumb trails in there that aren't important to the movie,
mhm.
but it's just if you've seen the movie before, you're a bit more receptive to catching other details of questions that you're left with, and you go back, you're like, oh no, they explain it here by this detail, and it's just minor stuff. And so every time you go, there's a lot of replay value to it, just for that very thing where you can just go back and pick up on the details that you missed the first time.
Right.
Oh god, I love this movie so much.
Oh my gosh. It was really good. And just I'm trying to find um the version of it. The prayer that he does at the beginning of the movie where they redo "Now I lay myself down to sleep."
Mm,
Oh,
Um
yeah, yeah.
they even the rewrite that was a foreshadowing
Mhm.
of how the movie's going to end, and I
For sure.
appreciate that bookend detail that they did there. Again, this is part where I was like, I the fact that they gave up their income just to do the movie, it tells you how much passion they had behind every aspect. It was the whole thing was super intentional.
so good. Oh my gosh. Um, there was something else too. It's gone. It'll be back, but it's gone. I'm sorry. This Talking about this movie makes me feel manic, like I need to proselytize or something or give a hallelujah because this movie just gets me excited.
Oh, here we go. This is the rewrite of that prayer. It goes, "Now lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And when I wake in the morning light, teach me to do what's right. Amen." And that's what happens at the end is that you have the priest, air quote, Jeff
Mm,
Bridges' character, in the morning light, he learns to do what is right. And I
right.
really appreciate how they played that whole thing out.
I can dig that. Um, I remember what I was going to say now. This movie is about dichotomies. I mean, if you want
Hmm.
to break it down to the themes,
Hmm.
this movie talks about everything, and it talks about nothing at all at the same time.
Right.
Like it makes points on many different topics, but
Mhm.
it doesn't try to say anything about those points at all.
Mm.
Like you tap on the racism of the late 60s and during that era. You tap on the way women are treated. You start talking, you talk about all these different aspects of what life was like, but they don't try to make a point. They're like, hey, this is a thing,
Yeah.
and they just leave it there. And I
Hmm.
love that because they don't try to spoon feed the audience. um
They give you a good glazing of with the culture
mhm.
without making the culture a thing. The
Yeah.
the the point is the story they're telling, not it doesn't look like they're trying to make a cultural point about what was taking place there. Like, this is the setting. Let's move on with the story.
Mm,
Holy crap. Drew
What?
Goddard, uh, was part of Lost.
doesn't shock
Yeah.
me.
That's why in the intro it says the Lost Martian, because he did the Martian and he did
Oh,
Lost.
I didn't know that.
That's all right.
um
I'm late to the party.
the other thing that's very stark in this movie is its core message that goes through each and every individual story, which is two things:
Hmm.
nobody is innocent and everybody needs redemption.
Mm,
Hmm.
That's the theme through every character in the story. And people who are earnestly looking for redemption find it in this movie, and people who aren't don't. I mean, there are so many low key. There are so many different sermons you can pull out of this movie that just it.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'm just gonna shut up so everybody else can talk because I could take this whole podcast by myself. I'm
No, it's all good. You're right though, and it's the there's a lot of depth to this I was not expecting, um, just through and through.
I
And
appreciated the way they handled the storytelling by flipping back and forth. I know for some people that would have been confusing, but for me, it made me more engaged with the story
hmm.
by getting the multiple POVs
Hmm.
and then the backstory of each person to explain why they saw things the way they saw them.
Hmm. Yeah. There was a speaking of the dichotomy things, you had Jeff Bridges' character Flynn, and then you had Chris Hemsworth, Billy Lee, was that his name?
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a moment in Billy Lee's like in his grand staging, making himself seem like he's this person like where he's standing and like there's like this artificial halo that they've made around him using the lighting in the background. Like he really saw himself as this divine figure, even though he at the same time was saying there was no God. But then you have a man who's pretending to be a priest who lived a terrible life himself, and he's having to be godly in this moment for the person at the very end. I really appreciate that dichotomy between the two personalities there.
Okay, so how many people, when this movie really started getting into it, you started wondering if this was actually all happening in purgatory?
I did not ask that
Nope,
question.
didn't go
That's
there.
interesting.
Just me? Really?
Yeah, just you.
Didn't go
First
there.
time I saw this movie, I'm like, this is an allegory for purgatory.
Oh
All
my
right.
goodness.
Apparently,
So-
apparently I'm getting too deep here.
a little bit. So it was, I don't know. Again, it was a good movie. Like but it happened so fast. Like the entirety of the film.
Okay,
I mean, it was
Dallas,
booking.
do you know how long this movie is?
It's like 2 hours.
It's 2
Yeah.
hours and 20 minutes, my man.
Yeah.
It's not fast. It just
Yeah.
feels like it because you are processing so much as you're watching it.
Mhm.
Well, and because again, the way they did the storytelling by the jumping back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
it didn't feel like it was that long. Because had they
Mm-hmm.
told that same story linearly instead of going back and forth,
Mm.
then it wouldn't have been that long.
Well, it's like the scene where Homegirl smashes Jeff Bridges in the head,
I was just about to talk about that scene.
and then they cut back to it, and you see like as they're zooming in, and you see him waking up Jeff Bridges, and you see her heels there, and I'm like, oh, that's smart. She probably took him off to run up and do that, and then they cut back and they show her jumping off her heels to running and take him out, and that there was this constant overlap of storytelling. And sometimes when they do that, when people tell stories that way, it can get confusing. It didn't. Everything kind of really made sense.
I'm almost wondering because of how they designed excuse me, how they designed the whole hotel
Mm-hmm.
on a soundstage. I almost wonder if like all the camera like this if this was filmed like mostly Hell's Kitchen style on just stationary cameras,
Mm-hmm.
and they just did this all in like 1 or 2 takes.
Maybe. I don't
Because
Oh.
there was so much overlap that they showed from different perspectives.
know.
I don't
As certain,
think so.
it's just a thought I have every time I watch this movie because the way they overlap it is so precise.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is. And I think they might have done all the different story trails that took place in the same spots.
Mm,
I think that they did them all at the same time.
mm.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Am I just not am
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
misunderstanding? Okay, okay.
It's just you would have to be thinking about those shots if you don't have stationary cameras hidden in the interior, so to speak. Then you're gonna have to be planning all those shots all at the same time. Which, if that's what happened, then bravo, sir. Because
Well, and the reason I said that I don't think they were stationary cameras is because
Mhm.
some of the shots they did with Billy Lee in the El
Oh, no,
Royale.
no. I wasn't suggesting that every single shot was
Oh,
stationary,
whoa,
but
whoa, whoa.
like the majority of
Gotcha. Okay.
um but going back to the champagne bottle, okay, how many people were caught off guard when Homeboy took that bottle to the dome, right?
Man, I was like, what happened? 'Cause I'm sitting there watching her. I'm going, man, I hope she doesn't see him like spiking her drink, and all of a sudden crash. And I was sitting there going, how did she even see that? That was the one thing I was like, that angle's off. Like she was not looking at him doing that, and she was like, I'm going to take you out. She had something. She already saw something bad about him.
Well, she says that later on that she had just had a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, well, if your feeling would have been wrong, you would have smacked a bottle, hit a priest with a bottle. And she goes, well, I could have found a way to forgive myself.
Well, and it also speaks to the world that she's lived in, because she's lived in a world where she has to be constantly aware of what's being said around her, what's being done.
Mm-hmm.
And in her backstory, we see that she almost fell victim to some of that. And so just the amount of it fit her character that she would be like, you know what, this guy's sus, and grabs a champagne bottle and knocks him out and then runs. Homegirl didn't even get her shoes. She said, I don't need them.
So I was thinking about the film, talking about nobody was who they who we thought they were. Like the salesman, he's a jerk and he's foul, and then you find out he's this loving father and he's a secret agent also, or CIA agent. And then of course you have the priest who's supposed to be this, very pious individual. Turns out he's a criminal. The girl, she was hiding her skill and her abilities.
Mhm.
And then you had the hippie, and she comes off front. On the front end is very brash and very like, I don't care, blah blah blah. But then you turn out she's actually very loving. She's just concerned about her sister.
Trying to get her sister out of some kind of a cult.
Yeah, exactly. And so like everyone had this thing on the inside that they were masking something else about themselves. And I found that very interesting.
Well, it goes back to the whole dichotomy thing
Mhm.
where people are if you look at each of the characters that you said and how there are two sides to them,
Mm-hmm.
The perspective is constantly a dark and a light, a
Mm-hmm.
dark and a light, and there it goes back to the whole nobody's innocent, everybody needs redemption, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll notice as people choose the dark or the light dichotomy that each character is, that's what dictates the fate of each character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
And who got at least a little bit misty when Miles died?
Oh yeah, yeah. That was sad watching that take place. It was sweet watching it happen, but
Yeah.
it was genuinely like, oh man, this guy, poor
Well,
dude.
I was having more of an issue with when he was going, I don't want to kill anybody else, because that is, to me, that was a bit more relevant, I guess. I don't know how to
Mhm.
say it. It made more sense to me because of the time frame. And
Mm-hmm.
then we got his backstory, and I went, "Oh, that explains why he's a drug addict," because that is very common amongst specifically Vietnam vets. Like, that is a thing. Those are statistics we know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, "Oh, that tracks. This poor kid. No wonder he wants to confess to this priest."
Yeah. This I you know I know I'm telegraphing, but I mean, there's so much depth you could go into in this movie, and like we have spoiled so much in this movie, but just with the basic scenes that we've talked about, there's still going to be people who did not listen to us and say when we told them to turn it off and go watch the movie, that are going to be like, "Yo, what? Wait, what?"
Yeah. It was genuinely an interesting experience watching it, and I don't, we keep saying this over and over. It was just good storytelling, which honestly is something that I miss in cinema sometimes. It's a really interesting story that kept you going. What's happening next? What's happening next? And they did a great job with it, and I appreciate that. It was so contained. You talked about the front end about those movies that like it's just a small cast in a small space like that. When you can do that and do that well, it comes off great. Now, some people try doing that and it's not good, and you can just tell it was cheap. But they did a really great job of making that happen.
Yeah.
So I might have done a bit of a history search while we were watching the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the hotel that this is based off of has a lot of fun conspiracy theory things surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
One of which, and I won't mention the rest of them. I'll just mention this one. Uh, the hotel that this is based off of actually burned down right before opening season of like the Tahoe area, the day before they were going to put in the sprinkler system.
Oh.
Considering it was also owned by the mob, that makes you go, "What was in there? What were they hiding?"
Right?
I mean, yeah. Well, cool. Does anybody got anything else to say before we get to the ratings?
No, I think I'm going to give a rating on it.
All right. Celeste, you look like you're about to say something, then didn't.
No,
All
I
right.
was thinking.
Okay. All right. Well, why don't you, Dallas, go ahead and introduce the ratings, and then I'll go first because this was my movie, and I don't think mine's a surprise. So
Yeah, we know you're going to put it in a dumpster fire. Anyway, so the rating system we have here is kind of a 4-tier system. We have top shelf, which means I need to own this right now. I need this on DVD. I need to have this DRM so I can stream it on everything. I need the celluloid like printed out and on my wall and possibly tattooed to my left butt cheek. That's what top shelf means. Second shelf is middle shelf, and it means maybe if it's streaming, I might watch it. It's a good film. It's not a terrible film at all. I enjoy it. I just don't feel the need to go out and buy it right now. Bottom shelf means I probably won't watch this again. Good, bad, or different. I'm just like, nah. And then we have dumpster fire, which means I will actively try to keep people from watching this film. It is terrible. It is trash. And to our understanding, when things go in here, they disappear, and nothing's ever gone in there before, right?
Right.
Right.
There is no Avatar movie.
What?
What's Avatar?
Right. So I'll go first. Yeah, mine's the toppest of top shelves. Like, if I could institute this as mandatory high school watching, I would. Just in creative writing classes alone to show how to write a character.
Mm-hmm.
I've not veiled anything that I feel about this movie. I could gush about this movie all day. So mandatory watching, toppest of top shelf, however you want to put it. 10 out of 10.
Dig it.
Dallas.
I'm gonna put this. I'm kind of torn. I'm probably gonna put it on a high middle shelf. Like, I don't want to. Like, it was a good movie. I would definitely watch it for streaming. I don't feel the need to go out and buy it. But like you, I'm like, this is good storytelling. Like, and I would recommend if somebody's like, hey, what's a movie that would be great for telling me to show me how to do good storytelling, character development? I would point this movie out because it keeps you guessing and it keeps you the story flowing, as we talked about beforehand. It felt quick. It wasn't quick, but it felt quick. And so I'm gonna put it as a high middle shelf.
And the music bops, y'all.
It does.
It really does.
Genuinely does.
Celeste.
So I'm going to rate this based on the fact that I really want to go and rewatch it right now. So I'm gonna put it on the top shelf because, like, there's so many small things that I feel like I missed. Like, it's been niggling me in the back of my head, going, "Wasn't there something there?" But I really love good storytelling, and I love a good mystery. And so, if you put a good mystery in the midst of really good storytelling with all of the attention to detail that they have, then it's going to be something I enjoy as long as it doesn't cross boundaries.
So there you have it, everybody. This movie is a disputed top shelf. I am so excited because I love this movie so much. So if how do you guys feel out there in listener land? Do you agree with this or not? Shoot us a message. Let us know what you think. Interact with us. In the meantime, it is time to do the weak connections. I had to look for my bumper here.
This is a weak connection.
Welcome to the Weak Connection. This is the part of the podcast where we go line by line, verse by. No, wait, that's a different podcast. Where we break down what we just watched and try to glean some message of hope, some spiritual context, anything good or redemptive that we can find in this movie. And as per usual, we will open it up to Pastor Dallas, please.
Yeah. So one of the prevailing themes I think is the conversation about has somebody done too much to be redeemed, and specifically with the one character, the kind of the bellhop manager of it, who, like Celeste mentioned in the episode, the kid's dealing with some serious level of PTSD coming out of Vietnam, and then at the same time dealing with the guilt of everything he's been doing at this hotel. And the entire time he's wanting to confess his sins. And while we here at the Bottom Show, we're not saying you need to go see a priest to be redeemed, to have you confess your sins. There is a need to confess things that is in our spirits that are sin. And there are some people, and I've talked to people who have said, I've done too much to be forgiven. I've gone too far to be forgiven. I've done XYZ thing. God can never love me. God will never care for me. If I walk into a church, the whole building would fall on top of me. And that is a lie. That is flat out a lie. And there's a verse, Romans chapter 5, verse 8 says this, but God showed his love for us, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Christ knows what you've done, what you will do, and he doesn't care. He died so you could be redeemed. Doesn't matter what you have done or will not do, or what you have done or will do. He died so that you could be redeemed. And all we have to do is ask for that forgiveness. And there's this really touching scene at the movie where where the kid is giving his confession to the priest, to the father, and there's this genuine thing where the kid's like, I've done too much. He's like, no, like, will you give yourself to the Lord in this day? Live out for the rest of your days. And he's like, it's too late for me. It's like, it's not too late. And so for whoever's listening, no matter what's happening in your life, no matter where you've gone, it's not too late to give your life to Christ and to live out the rest of your days. You may have done some horrific things. And I'm telling you, that while those things may not have been okay, Christ forgives. He forgives perfectly. And he redeems our lives. And he can redeem you in this moment if you are willing to surrender your life to him and live this out with him. And that's my weak connection.
I want to point out a line that was said in this movie, and I know this isn't my weak connection, and I'm kind of stepping in on this, but it kind of rides with that a little bit. When Billy Lee was talking to the kid, when the kid was trying to confess to the priest, when he said, "Well, if you're so concerned about the state of your soul, then you probably shouldn't have been doing all that wicked stuff to begin with." And I'm like, that, I know he's a bad guy, but he's not wrong.
Well, that just plays into the whole, even if you were a Christian and you've left the faith and you think you've done something, you think that God doesn't love you anymore, that's not true.
Mhm.
You just have
Mhm.
to seek. You have to look for the redemption. You have to look for the forgiveness.
You have to look for the opening strike.
What?
Come on,
Lord.
Dallas. What?
Oh, goodness gracious. But Celeste isn't wrong. Like, she's like,
Demon Slayer.
the opening thread.
Yeah.
So, but she's right. I mean, you may have messed up. And that's the thing, is there are a lot of people that are, they started their walk with Christ and maybe they had a failure and they walked away from him and they did some stuff. And there's a lot of people that they hold that judgment over their heads and they feel like they can't. We just talked about this in church actually today, and there are some people that they feel like they're second class Christians because they know God's forgiven them, but God's just disappointed in them, and that's not who God is. That's not the Father that we have in heaven. When He forgives totally and completely. And you may have made mistakes. You may have genuinely messed up and done some terrible things, but God's love and grace is so perfect that if you repent, He'll restore you. We just talked about on Geek Devotions a little bit about this last week, and when we were talking about the Suicide Squad isekai, and I brought the fact that if the way that we treat people today, if we treated King David the way we treat people today, with his mistakes, with um, his affair, and some people think possible rape of the woman, and then the murder of her husband. If we were to treat him the way we treat people today, we would have completely deleted those chapters about him. Every good thing, every psalm he ever wrote, every proverb. Well, he didn't do any proverbs, but everything that he's ever did, everything good. Jesus wouldn't be called Jesus, the son of David. That would have been wiped out completely. But God is gracious. And when he forgives fully. It doesn't mean there's not consequences of things. Doesn't mean people need to be restored in an appropriate manner. But he does forgive.
Celeste, did you have a weak connection?
I did. So
Oh, we've got a full house because I got one loaded too. All right, go ahead, Celeste.
go ahead and do yours because I've lost track of mine because I was going,
Listening.
yeah, that's good. So I need to circle my brain back around.
No worries. All right. Well, mine, I do have a scriptural reference. I'm not going to read it because it's long. Mine is from the Book of Judges. That's it, the Book of Judges. And the point is, and it's a theme that happens throughout this movie, is that God has called you to be who you are in that moment, regardless of what your current planning is. And you see this throughout the movie. Jeff Bridges' character was not, in fact, a Catholic priest, although in that moment, God needed him to be that for that kid, so he could be at peace in his final moments. In the same way, God, they needed that kid to be the soldier again, despite the fact that he did not want to.
Yeah.
And it's all about being who God wants you to be when it's timely, not when it's convenient. And that happens so many times throughout the Book of Judges. Best example I can think of off the top of my head is Gideon. in that he was from the least, what was it, the lowest clan of the lowest tribe. Um, and God still rose him up to be a conquering judge over Israel. Or you could even go to Moses when God approached him in the burning bush in Exodus, or rather, when he approached the burning bush in Exodus, rather, where Moses said, I'm not the guy. And God says, I just told you you're the guy, do it. So maybe there's somebody out there right now. Dallas's appeal was to people, there's time for you to repent now, but maybe you're out there and you're already a Christian or already a believer. But there's things, there's excuse me, I'm getting a little bit congested in my throat. There's things that, it feels uncomfortable. Like, this isn't what I was planning for with my Christian walk. And God's like, so I want to encourage you to lean into that, because that can take you into places you weren't expecting. I could testify to that, but I'm not gonna right now because this isn't the place. So I just want to encourage you to live out what God's calling in you, and lean not so much onto your own ideas as far as what you think you're supposed to be.
So mine kind of plays into that ish. Mine also plays into what we talked about today at church. And I was thinking it anyway while we were watching it, but Jeff Bridges, because has a memory loss, he doesn't remember things that he should. And at one point he says, I've been a little bit of everything. And it wasn't exactly that, but basically he was a master of pretending to be someone he's not. And Billy Lee goes, well, what's your name? What's your real name? And he can't remember. And he looks at the singer, and he goes, did I ever tell you my name? And she goes, no, you didn't. There are people out there who have forgotten who they are in God. They have forgotten that they are a child of God, and that they're not just doing this Christian thing just because. That there is an actual God out there who they are worshiping. They're doing things out of habit rather than out of worship or out of desire, or that they've attached their identity to something else. And that's a dangerous thing to do, because if you attach your identity to something else, to another part that you're playing, to a role that you're fulfilling, to a job you're doing, then you run the risk of your identity being taken away, because nothing but God is permanent. And so what happens if you're no longer mom? What happens if you're no longer, the team lead? What happens if you're no longer whatever it is that you have put your identity in? Well, then you've lost your identity, and you don't know that you are a child of God, that you are all of these things that we are told in scriptures that we are.
Yeah.
And it did not necessarily get resolved in the movie. I don't know if he ever remembered his name.
Were
Sorry.
either of you shouting it at the screen too?
No.
Oh.
Sorry, I was taking too many breaths in and I wasn't breathing out.
It's fine. Sorry, I was trying to fill that. Sorry, I'll shut up.
You're good. You're good. But there can be resolution for us. If we forget who our identity is found in, there is grace for us to remember. There is a God who's willing to tell us, and assuming that you are in a healthy church, there are people around you who are there to remind you, or a healthy community. Either way.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
Cool. Well, all right, everybody. I want to thank everybody so much for swinging by and hanging out with us on this space station. Admiral?
Yeah?
This screen here says there's a split in the wormhole and we have to choose a direction.
Oh no.
It
Don't touch anything.
well, there's a decision that needs to be made. Do we want more mixed, more of a mix of movies, or go back to just straight bad movies?
Red pill or blue pill? What do we pick?
Well, let's ask the listeners what they think. We'll go check out the Geek Devotions Facebook group. We're gonna put a poll out there, and we'll put one out on our Discord and actually all the socials rather. And go vote for what you want more. If you want more varied movies, or if you just want us to be digging up the stinkers, let us know. Because I wanted to give you guys a sampling of what it would taste like if we did movies that weren't necessarily so bad. So let us know, and we'll see where these two wormholes go. So until next time, stay devoted.
Peace and love.